All praise to him who reigns above in majesty supreme, who gave his Son for man to die, that he might man redeem. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. His name above all names shall stand, exalted more and more. At God the Father's own right hand, where angel hosts adore. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Number 4, his name shall be the Counselor, the mighty Prince of Peace, of all earth's kingdoms conqueror, whose reign shall never cease. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. All right, 530, a shelter in the time of storm. 530. The Lord's our rock, in him we hide, a shelter in the time of storm. Secure whatever ill betide, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. A shade by day, defense by night, a shelter in the time of storm. No fears, alarm, no foes affright, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. Oh, rock divine, oh, refuge dear, a shelter in the time of storm. Be thou our helper ever near, a shelter in the time of storm. It's a rock in a weary land, a weary land, a weary land. Oh, Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm. 388, then Brother Kirby's going to come preach to us. My soul in sad exile was out on life's sea, so burdened with sin and distress, till I heard a sweet voice saying, make me your choice, and I entered the haven of rest. I've anchored my soul stormy deep. In Jesus, I am safe evermore. Number 3, the song of my soul since the Lord made me whole has been the old story so blessed of Jesus who'll save whosoever will have a home in the haven of rest. I've anchored my soul in the haven of rest. I'll sail the wide seas no more. The tempest may sweep o'er the wild stormy deep. In Jesus, I am safe evermore. Amen.
Forgot something here. So today we're going over something called Taming Technology, and this is a parent's guide, biblical guide for parenting in the digital age. As Pastor Norris mentioned, I've been a assistant pastor, youth pastor at Coast Hills for 17 years, over 20 plus years in ministry in total. I work for different digital marketing companies, working with social media, and then recently on Capitol Hill dealing with or seeing the impact of privacy with these big tech groups, even TikTok, possible being banned for what it's doing, kind of taking information back to China, what it does to our kids. And so there's a lot going on in this whole realm. And what I've given to you there is just a lot of the problems and the abuses that can exist, but also answers. And this may be something that you can use for your family or looking ahead. Somebody, maybe you passed to a friend. I was in a group of communications directors. They were talking about teachers in their public schools dealing with it, trying to just, because kids are just being bombarded. This is not just a problem within churches and Christians. This is a universal problem all around. And so if you know anybody, again, teaching in wherever, share this. There's, I think on the back is a QR code that links to a slightly older version, but has the same basic principles. You can copy it, hand it out. Like, I have no problem just about getting the word out to people. So that's there. Because I found that there are digital immigrants and there are digital natives. And it's like if you're learning a second language, you're trying to figure out, como estás. You're trying to, you don't have the accent down. You don't know because you are coming in as a second language. But these kids, they come in and they are fluent in digital. Like, everything to them thinks is iPad first. You put an iPad in front of a baby, they will start going. It's made and geared toward them. But us, I remember when the internet was just coming out, right? I remember when cell phones first came out. I didn't get an iPhone until I was like in my 20s, and these kids are like begging for it. Well, Susie has hers, and she's 6. Why come I can't have mine? It's a whole different world, right? So when we say I don't understand, I have learned the technology. I have learned different things, but these kids figure out ways around quick because things are changing. I found in my notes, I said in here on I think it's the back page, it said tablets and iPods. And there's iPod's not even a thing anymore. And so, but when those came out, and that was when we were, when I was first youth pastor, kids were all about getting their MP3 player or their iPod, and now it's like whatever. So technology changes and grows, obviously, but the principles don't change. And the biggest thing I want to stress to you, it's the last thing I'm going to stress about, but I'm going to start with it. There is no digital replacement for a godly parent who is informed and engaged in their child's life. I'm going to say that now and I come back to it again, but that is the difference maker. And so even though technology is this interface that's supposed to make things better and bring things closer together, it actually spreads us apart from people right next to us and separates things. And so At the end, we'll do a Q&A. So this is going to be a lot more of just a teaching, more of like almost like a seminar on this stuff. We're going to go through it. But if you have questions, we'll have time at the end, so you can kind of take notes in there. And then if you need to leave at that point, like we'll figure that out. But we'll be around to ask questions and kind of give you some different things. Technology is intended to be helpful by nature. Intended to be helpful, but by nature, it actually goes against many of your values and many of your principles. Technology inherently values speed, access, and interruption. And most of us, we want patience and privacy and family, but technology is trying to get in the middle of all that. I mean, you're having a conversation, beep, you're trying to talk about this, you go to your phone to get something important, and you get 5 other things that derail you before you even get to that important thing. And so technology is at odds with who we're trying to be as a good person sometimes. So we have to just recognize that. So we're going to dive into the notes, the problems with the internet, with internet misuse and abuse. So the internet is a communication tool for business and education, entertainment, and think of it as the internet as a mini universe. And many websites and apps are a mini universe unto themselves. YouTube, Facebook, which I say that for the older people. Kids aren't on Facebook. But Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. And so you might say, well, my kid's not on the internet, but they're just on TikTok. No, that means they have everything. Yeah. You know, and so you have to realize parents are trying to control, but this one window gives you everything. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Pinterest, you're going to, everything's cross-posted. Means if it's over here, it's also over here. So things go everywhere. It's like I guess it's like water. It's hard to contain water. If you spilled water, it's going to go everywhere. And so it is that fluid and liquid as far as getting access. The result is an ever-present connectivity and influence. How many grew up, you had to play outside when the lights came on, you had to come back home? Like, we're used to that. Your mom knew you were playing with, Johnny and Susie because they could see them. Yes. And when you came inside, they weren't there anymore. And maybe you get on the phone that had a cord connected to the wall, and you're doing all that, right? When you got one that had an antenna, you were high rolling, right? That was like back in the day. But now, Johnny and Susie are in their pocket all the time, texting, messaging, all of them, and just consistent. Kids up till 2, 3 in the morning. They can't even focus in school. Our school principal, he really understands all this kind of thing. He said, I can tell a kid who's a screen time baby and not by looking at them. They can't hold attention. They're fidgety. They can't control their hands because they're so used to interfacing with a device. And so that ever-present connectivity and influence, so the internet is not evil, but is used by evil people. Everything is available to your child, and your child is available to everyone. Without proper guidance and protection, young people are being exposed to the worst the world has to offer. And let me give you a scripture here in Proverbs chapter 4, verses 4 to 16. And this one's in the notes here. It says, enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. And so it's telling us, avoid these areas, these paths where these evil people are, because they won't even go to sleep until they've messed you up. Their job, their goal, their purpose in their mind is to take somebody down with them. As it says right there, their sleep is taken away unless they cause them to fall. But that path is not, used to be me going down to the liquor store to find that magazine, and now that magazine is finding its way digitally to me. And kids who have no intention of discovering things are being hunted. They're being targeted. Remember seeing a story of a young lady, it was a mom talking about her kid, and so she was playing the game, and then let her daughter play the game, and the girl came and said, hey, this video keeps popping up. And then the mom was playing the game, and the video didn't pop up. Well, this video was, this app was using face recognition to say, young person, and was feeding him this content, and when the adult came, it wouldn't feed him that content. That's the kind of things we're dealing with. So you can't just say, oh, I'm giving them something, it's going to be fine, that game's cute. It's the ads, right? They click on it, now they're somewhere else. So you have to be aware that these are evil people who are targeting innocent people. And so that kind of thing happens often. And kids and young people who are not looking for it, hey, your profile says you're a 15, 16-year-old man. Hey, you're getting all that sensual stuff. The ads are going to be coming. And so versus you're a girl, they know. And I'm going to get to some of that in a second here. And so let me get some scriptures. So in 1 John 2:15-17, it talks about, love not the world, the things that are in the world. For the love of the Father is not in them. And then it says in James 1:13-15 that we are tempted, we are drawn away by our own lust and enticed. And so even if you love God, you're going to have these temptations come. And so there's these things you have to just be aware of because, again, you have, by default, your device, whatever, you've got full access to all these different things. Some of the problems listed out there, cheating, defamation of others, reputation, which is what you do online stays somewhere forever. Like somebody's tracking you. If you're saying stuff, I deleted it. It's still there. Still there. Bad sources of information and bad influencers, right? So people, they make it their job. I want to influence people. That's their job. And that could be towards something positive. That could be towards something negative. So it's not just that, yes, there's good information, but there is bad information. There are good and there are bad. A popular YouTuber, Mr. Beast, a lot of just kind of fun stuff going on there. But then he's got a friend of his who began this journey. Well, your young person's following this guy's journey in real time, right? They are not seeing the authenticity of this person's journey. Some people concoct a story just to get clicks and views, right? They don't know the destination. They don't know the consequences. They just think this is fun. This is trending. Everybody's doing this. Well, that young man is, I believe, still about a transgender, divorced his wife, and has just gone on this journey. Well, kids are thinking, well, he's doing this, and he's having fun, and he's rich, and he's doing this, he's doing that. And so there's these things that are enticing and pulling our young people the wrong directions. So there's also problems with safety, and mentioning people who manipulate your kids, who are predators, targeting kids. There are legal issues, which piracy and plagiarism, copyright, this more not as applicable to most kids, but then it's got gossip and bullying, general negativity. You realize that the world you see online is kind of customized to you. What I'm seeing in my feed is not the same thing that you're going to see, and you're going to see. And maybe if we both like a particular news station or a particular influencer, we might see similar things. But it kind of just where the websites you visit and the things that you see posted and your friends and family and who you particularly like, it's kind of this custom thing. And so if you happen to like something negative, you're going to get more negative. And if you kind of identify as something or relate to something, you're going to get more of that. And so our kids who are maybe easily swayed on something, they click different places, and that more of that comes, okay? Inappropriate content, including pornography, again, it comes to them, let alone there being hacking, data security, identity theft, data harvesting, algorithms, and artificial intelligence. And data harvesting is what I'm saying, take Google, for example. They give computers to schools. Are they doing that out of the goodness of their heart? Yes and no. What are they doing? They're creating a profile on that student. And everything that student does and their search history and how smart they are and this and that and the other, that goes in to their big system, right? So as they're growing up, now they've got a YouTube account, like this and that. They connect all that. So all that data is called aggregated. It's all going to one place, and so now they can target that person and, oh, they like this. Let's advertise this. Let's advertise that. They make money off of the data. They don't care about the laptop. They make money on data, okay? The algorithms are meant to try to can manipulate. I mean, Google knows if there's a flu outbreak. Why? Because people are like, how do my kid's sick and they're coughing and that, and that starts popping up in a region, and they know in Seattle that they're dealing with the flu right now. Like, they know this kind of stuff. Target, the store, knows when you sign up for that red card and you get 5% off. They just love you? No, they want your data. Target stores or send ads to you. And Target stores know by what you're shopping for and what you're buying for. They can predict a woman's gestational period and send her coupons for baby stuff before she knows she's pregnant, based on their shopping habits. And so rather than send you all of a sudden diaper ads show up, they'll put it into kids stuff and different things, but they'll have diaper ads in there because they know. How do they know? Because they're gathering all this data. They don't want to be creepy, but they know. And so that's the kind of stuff that's going on. Now you add onto that AI, artificial intelligence, which it's not like in the movies. AI is predictive analysis is really what it's doing. It's predicting the next word. It's predicting, it's kind of gathering, putting it all together faster than we can, yes. But you may hear about that the young man that was encouraged to commit suicide by an AI chatbot. And he's chatting with this bot, and it's kind of like taking on this characteristic of some actor or some kind of character in a popular TV show. And so that's the personality that he's chatting with, and he's kind of depressed and going through some stuff, and he's chatting with this computer, and says he wanted to commit suicide, wanted to die, and say, well, why don't you? And so that's the kind of wild stuff that is out there and that we need to be aware of, because, again, artificial intelligence is an augmented or an altered reality. It's not the truth. It's enhanced. It looks good, but there's context missing from life. And so that's one thing. Then you got just basic indulgence, time wasting, and addiction, secrecy, hidden accounts and apps, and all that, okay? So some of that we know, some of that we didn't know how bad it was, but it gets worse than what I'm saying, but you get the idea. So parents, we need to be informed and engaged. Too many times, too many children, even in good homes, are being left to themselves. And the scripture there is Proverbs 29:15. It says, "The rod and reproof give wisdom," right? When you discipline your kids. "But a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame." And so when we don't discipline our kids and make sure that they're doing what they ought to do, we can't just say, hey, I told them to go to bed at a certain time, but I never check on them. I told them, here's this phone or here's this device, and just don't do bad stuff on it. There has to be accountability. There has to be checks and balances. You can't leave your kids to be babysat by devices. You can't do that. There's a book recommendation there. Just talks about the parenting side of it. We must be aware of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dangers and guard our children's hearts and minds. 1 Peter 5:8, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour." And so in Proverbs 4:23, "Keep thy heart," or guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Like, we've got to be proactive. We've got to be involved. We've got to stay engaged because the enemy's out there. It wants to isolate you from your kids and your kids from you. A strong parental relationship is the best protection. If they go, I didn't know my daughter was going through all that. Well, have you talked to them recently? When you notice that they don't want to talk, whatever, like, you gotta push, you gotta probe, you gotta figure out what's going on. Don't just. I mean, it's easy, like, hey, we're busy, life's going, we're running. But when you notice a change in your child's heart, like, you got to be in tune to notice those things and then try to work at what's going on here. What's causing this? Did they hear something? Did somebody hurt them? What's going on behind the scenes? Even through the rigors of busyness of the modern life, because technology is supposed to make things easier and better, but we are just busier than ever before. We just think, oh, because this technology can do this faster, now I can just do more stuff. Like, it hasn't made life really simpler. And so here's just some practical things just kind of listed out. You've got them there. I'm just going to come through. Account for their whereabouts. Just like our parents need to know, hey, we're on this street. When the lights come home, be in. Digitally, where are your kids going? You know, what websites are they on? Track all of that. Know where they are. And I'll get to, like, how do we do that if you're not aware in a second. Give them a reasonable schedule and make adjustments when needed. You're not going to be able to make the rules once on these things because things change. You know, you say, you know, well, they can do it an hour a day. That's kind of our limit on screen time. Or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like, set whatever makes sense, and then, you know, make adjustments. If you have to peel back, if they break the rules, what are the consequences? Like, think through all that. Challenge them to do their best. Encourage them when they fail. Teach them the truth. Teach them again when they forget. Train them in practical skills. You know, how do I search? What keywords did you never put into the browser? What is surfing? You don't just, you know, it used to be back in the day, you'd just be flipping through the channels, channel surfing. But if you're just scroll, you are going to come across junk. It's just going to happen. So like my job is like I'm online all the time. Like, not all day long, but a lot of the day. And even at night, because my jobs are typically all internet-based. But I don't just sit there and surf and scroll and click on random things. I'm going for a purpose, with an intention. I'm going here, I'm going there. Because if you sit there, that death scroll is going to eat up your time. And you watch one reel, you've watched 100 reels. You know, it's just happening. And so, even as parents, these things are meant to be addictive. They're meant to keep you on their app, to keep you on their website. And our kids are not better at that than us. Sometimes we're as bad as them. You know, so we have to be mindful of that. So discipline them properly and consistently. You know, if they mess up one time, you don't have to smash it with their phone with a sledgehammer or make this big scene. But do things appropriately to what's been going on. You know, my kids have lost their phone privileges before for days or weeks or months at a time. And I am also for them having phones at the same time. Because when they leave my house, they're going to have a phone. And they're going to have access to everything. So our philosophy has been, and you may differ, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I want to teach them while they're in my home. I want to show them, hey, I'm looking at your screen time here, and we said this, and you're doing that, okay? I'm going to tell on Nate real quick. This is years ago, so he's over it. But I've got parental control set on his phone. And this is when he first got it, and he tried to figure out the password to parental controls. And I knew that because I went in there and said password attempt failed, and I knew it wasn't me. And this is, I mean, he was like 12, 13. No, he was 13 probably at the time. And he got busted big time. And I said, I can forgive a lot of things, but you're trying to override the system. And he gave me some excuse and tried to smile, and it was like, no. And he lost it for like 3 months and all that. And Nathan's a great kid. I'm get to pick on him a little bit here. But it was like, if you're trying to establish trust or establish responsibility, and so there's things that you got to stick to your guns as parents, because I've seen this, like, hey, you didn't give your kid a phone, auntie did, right? Or grandma did, because they don't want their little nephew, niece, or grandchild to be without like everybody else. You're like, I got to deal with this. What are you doing? You know, and so sometimes you're dealing with outside forces trying to kind of, in a way, co-opt your kids. And not that they don't mean bad. They're trying to be good and give something that's every kid's desire these days. But as a parent, you got to make sure you are the gatekeeper, right? And so restrain them when they become out of order. And there's a great example or bad example of that was Eli in the Old Testament. He didn't restrain his sons, right? God said, hey, your kids are messing up. He's like, well, yeah, and guys, that's bad. And women are trying to come to church or to the temple and give sacrifices, and they're like sleeping with these women. They're the priest, and he's the high priest, and people despise the temple because of Eli's sons, and he didn't restrain them. And they were messing up a lot of people, and God judged him for that. And we've got to restrain our kids as parents. If we're not going to do it, who's going to do it? And so it is your job. Abraham said to his family, I think of the verse off the top of my head, maybe Caleb knows it, that, we are going to serve God, me and my household. And so, hey, you're under my roof, we're going this direction. Joshua said, as for me and my house, but Abraham said something as well. I didn't look at that verse, so I apologize, but it's a great verse. But he was basically saying, hey, we are going this direction, all of us, all of us. And so don't be afraid to be the dad, to be the mom, to set the rules. And I was raised by a single mom, and we pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And she fought back, and she was going all this stuff, and we got our way on different things. And then as I got older, and I look back like, Mom, you weren't tough enough on us. She about to smack me because we were so trying to push her all the time. And so as tough as it can be, you are not hurting your kid by being strict. You're not hurting them. You are preserving them. They're not going to see it that way, but you love them. And so give them a hug, take their phone, you'll be okay. But laugh with them too. It's not all about the rules. Like, have fun with your kids. Love them unconditionally and like them too. Lead by example. When my wife, before the kids got their phones, or when they first getting them, we're like, hey, get off your phone. I'm like, you're on your phone. Well, they're calling us out. We didn't like that. Hey, I'm your mom. I'm your parent. Yeah, be quiet, kid. I'm doing adult stuff. I'm crushing candy. Whatever. But you know what I'm talking about. And so with that, we had to realize what example were we setting for them. And if we're always on a device, it's family time, or we're supposed to be sitting down doing something together, and I'm on my phone, wife's on her phone, she might have been reading a book, but they just saw it as a screen time. And so sometimes that's education to them, but it's also just about doing the right thing and being aware. My son, give me thine heart, Proverbs 23:26, and let thine eyes observe my ways. Right? So they got to see us doing the right thing. The book recommendation there is Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and that's just a book because our kids get exposed to stuff not because they're looking for it. And what do they do when they're confronted with a problem? That book addresses some things there. You may or may not want that book. These are suggestions. I'm just putting them out there. Next, protecting and controlling internet access. This gets into some more of that kind of like the nuts and bolts here in a second. Then we kind of get more practical at the end as far as like non-techie things. But try to identify people around you who know this stuff better than you. And you can't guard against everything, but there are some things to look out for. So let's kind of go through here. The internet is not going away. So if you're waiting for that day, it's not happening. More and more jobs depend on internet-driven technologies. Schools are even going to all online books. And so that's all, it's going to be part of the landscape now. So somewhere between living off-grid and having packages delivered by drones, we have to adjust to a new normal. I wrote that 4 years ago, and now drones deliver packages like every day. So again, it flies. At the same time, who would drop off their teen at a truck stop or a college co-ed dorm on a Friday night and say, don't forget their school on Monday morning? Like, you don't do that to your kids. Put them in a place to fail, right? Or a place to be abused. A wise parent realizes that unmonitored and unprotected internet access is negligence and takes the necessary steps to preserve purity and godliness in their home. That may mean, say, I don't know how to figure out all this stuff. Hey, take the router, unplug it and put it in your room. I mean, do what you got to do if you don't know how to control it through the software or the hardware. Do what you got to do. Make sure your kids are. It's not in my notes here, but like our kids don't have a TV in their room because if it's TV's in the room, it's going to be on, and I don't want it on. I don't want them just doing it with, like, their phones don't go into their bedrooms. They stay downstairs plugged in at night. And so there's some trust. Like, yes, they could go down there, but I check every morning. My wife checks in the morning, so we know that they're there. Maybe they get up. That's a lot of work for them to do. They had messed up by now. And maybe they have here and there, but the idea is that they've built some trust too, but we don't let them go into a private place and be on their device. It's got to be down where again, in the public space, we'll get to some of that in a second, but you got to have some checks and balances. Romans 13:14, put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Don't make it easy to sin. Don't provide for sin. 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Like, there's ways that he tries to get us messed up. He's got tricks, he's got things, so we're not ignorant of those. So how do we deal with this? So part of it's knowing how the kids get internet. Obviously, there's cellular data and a data plan. So their phones have internet access. I guess sometimes with your cell provider, I guess you might be able to say there's no data plan or cut that part off if you just want it to be more of like a dumb phone. But that's harder and harder to do now because I don't even think they provide many of those. If you have one, that's fine. We had one, it's called like a Gab phone. And that was kind of a special, it looks like a smartphone, but it had no internet access. You could control who she would text. Sayla was the one that got this one. And you could do one with no data, so you couldn't even send a picture. We can control, can you only text these 10 people? And she's like, why even have this phone? You know, if I can't play video games and go online, why even have a phone? I think we got Nate one. Did you have one of those? He's like, he would leave it at home most of the time because it wasn't about having a phone. It wasn't about talking. It's not about texting. That's not why your kids want a phone. If they've told you that, I hate to break it to you, your kid's a liar, okay? They don't want it to talk and text. They want a message. They want to be on those apps. They want to be on those games. They want to be doing what everybody else is doing. And those apps change every few months. You know, so just be aware of all that, just again, trends, different things. Oh, this one has this filter, this one has that, you know, and so they add those little features. But it's all the same, like getting around, communicating to one another. Your home, you have a home network, you've got a guest network, and my kids already know this, but like on the router, on the back of the router, the password's right there. So you could change that, but then I got to like go to every device I have and change it. So it's like, so I know that they know where that is. And again, we've built up some trust there, but you need to know that you have a home network and then a secondary guest network, and you can even have, I think, a third one on there. But also, your neighbors have Wi-Fi, and there's open signals that are out there. And some of the internet providers, you know, they actually use part of your data plan to create, it's called a mesh network. So within, you know, let's say you've got Verizon and they've got Verizon, they have Verizon, and they create this mesh network. So if you are a Verizon customer, you can have basically Wi-Fi wherever you go because it's kind of piggybacking off of your house. Now it's not, they don't have access to your, to you, but it's just Wi-Fi is everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's getting even broader than that. Of course, public Wi-Fi, generally, you know, libraries, coffee shops, fast food, grocery stores. There's just Wi-Fi is everywhere. So even if you don't have data on the plan, their phone, they can go on the Wi-Fi, or they can get a hotspot. Sometimes their friend has a hotspot, so they can turn that on and give your child internet access. So there's all kinds of ways to get to the internet. You can't really stop them from getting internet access, is what I'm saying. That doesn't mean you can't control the device, but it's hard to control internet access. So know and understand parental controls. The parental controls basically help you filter content to be age appropriate, but what I think is age appropriate and what like Apple thinks is age appropriate, not the same thing, right? So you've got to be mindful of that. And when you put on some of these filters, I want to tell you as a parent, it's annoying. My daughter's got to go. So one control I have on hers is she can only go to a website that I allow. So one is like, okay, filter all adult websites. Okay, that's a simple thing, but that gives you access to everything else. Well, if I say you can only go to these specific websites, but she's got to go research for this thing for school, and now I've got to give her access to like Microsoft.com, and then I got to get after this, and then it keeps popping up. Dad, I can't even get my work done because I'm getting annoyed by having to like put in all these websites to okay them. I said, fine, okay, you have access to everything now, and then I'll turn it off when your homework's done, but then I forget. So there's different things like that you just have to kind of be mindful of, and so when I get to everything, I'll tie it all up. So I'm just telling you, there's ways around a lot of stuff, and there's controls, but you have to be like on it. And if you don't, they have access. And so I'm going to give you some more technical things, and then we'll wrap it up and then take questions. So you can protect your home. Through your internet provider. Sometimes they like Verizon or Cox or Xfinity or whoever you have, through the router, they give you software where you can put in parental controls. Sometimes they're kind of hard to work with, but they're there. So you can be mindful of that. You can like on some, I want to say on Amazon Prime or Netflix, or if you have one of those services, sometimes you can put in there, okay, to log into the adult side, you got to put in a little code, and then you got the kids side. But once you get past like the kids side, let's say you got a teenager, they're 12, they don't want to watch, what's that one you got, Bluey? And they don't want to watch Bluey anymore, right? They want to go to something else. Well, now they've got Bluey or everything except for like the X kind of stuff, or mature. So there's these huge jumps to go through. You just got to know that. Sometimes your cell phone provider, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, they've got stuff that they do parental controls. But when it comes to public Wi-Fi, hotspots, your neighbor, there's no controls for that unless you control the device itself. So the next section is the protecting devices through their operating system. So controlling your house's internet, that's more for when your kids are younger, like under age 10, because they're just not as tech savvy to like know how to get around those things. But once they get into those older ages, they understand more because they're just doing it, and if their friends know, and there's just too many ways around it, because they begin getting into that preteen and older stuff, and so those protections for the younger kids kind of are obsolete at that point. So then you go to device protection, which is, again, their desktop, laptop, tablet, phone. I put game system. That's kind of hard. I've not tried to control an Xbox. So maybe if you have, you can enlighten me there. But again, I know for me, okay, what's in an Xbox? So most of the kids aren't just playing, like we grew up playing Mario or something. We're playing like the game that's right there. And they're all playing online. So what's online? It's not just that they're playing a game. They go into a room, there's all these people, but now they're chatting, and this is even years ago, there was a game that's one of these, it wasn't Grand Theft Auto, but it was a game similar to that. But there are people who were logging into these games and making actually like transactions, like real world transactions in a virtual space. Like bartering and doing these like black market deals inside a video game. And so there's like all this weird stuff that can happen in there. Just be aware of who your kids are chatting with, and make sure that they understand, like, yeah, don't give out your name and your city, and like nobody needs to know about, if you don't know them in real life, you don't need to be talking to them online. Like that's just kind of a blanket rule, and our kids have done real well on that. So just kind of like teach them. You got to teach them stuff, because it's just a different world. But on the devices, I would say that Apple is the best at doing the parental controls. We have all Apple. There are some on the Android side. Google does have some, but the ones I know how to lock down an iPhone pretty good, where they can still you can turn on the ability to install apps, and I can turn that off. So, okay, well, the apps you have are the only apps you're going to have. You can't delete them. You can't. So you kind of keep the phone like as is, because there's like these like like ghost apps and different things where they can like download it and then hide it. And there's all this stuff that can happen. And that's actually a built-in feature with Apple's latest thing, so you even got to be mindful of that. Plug your ears, Nate. You don't know that right now, but I saw that. Like, do you want to hide this app? Like, do you want to enable this feature? And so they're making things to where your phone can look a certain way, but have access to other things too. So just to be aware. So, but you can control the device. I didn't do a walkthrough on that. But if you want to know that personally, I can show you how to do device controls. It's through the screen time section. You can say you can't have, you can set the content rating. You can set the screen time itself, how much they can have. You can shut it off after a certain time. So you can schedule their screen time basically, and that gets annoying to the kids, but just what we got to deal with. And so but you're controlling access, but you have to be accountable. The greatest accountability that my kids have and that I have, it's not just about them. My wife can take my phone and go through it anytime she wants. She has access to all my stuff. I don't hide anything from her. She's going through. Now, she does. It's an accountability thing. It's also like, hey, you forgot to tell me that Caleb Norris called. You forgot to tell me that. And so part of it is her just staying involved. I just forget stuff, just so much stuff's happening. So she's just going through, but also she knows that I work with other women and she just wants to make sure. And there's no reason. I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I know, but I know she's going to look. That helps me, keeps me accountable. And she'll go through the kids' phone and say, hey, I saw this joke. Can you look more into this? And she'll look at what are they doing? Where are they going? So you, as a parent, just going through your kid's phone. Let me say this. As a parent, you have 100% access to your kid's life. There is no privacy. Well, they can have privacy, like you can go to the bathroom and change. But there's no private life. Like, you're in my home, I'm paying for this stuff. Well, so Auntie pays for it. Grandma, I don't care. You're in my home. You are my child in my home. I have 100% access. You change that password, you lose that phone. Like, I'm in control. I'm in control. And so understand that you have 100% access. This idea, which they're going to get, and I'm going to make fun of my son here. Not this son, the other son. He's not here, so you guys can tell him later. When he turned 18, he thought he was emancipated. He thought, I'm in charge now. I'm doing what I want. And I don't know where he got that notion. There might have been some stuff on Instagram, whatever else. But he had to learn, you still live here. I still pay for everything. And yes, you're paying for your car. Now you're paying for your insurance. I'm paying for stuff. You're in here. You're doing our rules. It goes back to Abraham. It's like, look, this is what my household's doing. And you're in my house. You're part of my household. You go move out. You've got some freedom there. And I trust you're going to love God and serve God and do right. But you're in my home, so here's what we do. And again, he's got a little more leeway than the other. We kind of graduate the privilege as they get older, so that's a part of life there. But in my home, I have 100% access. My wife has 100% access to everything. Let's get down to the practical advice there. Focus on the Family has a lot of good stuff, just a lot of practical things on all these subjects. About bullying or this or that. They got articles on it. So I just want to put that there because I can't cover it all. And maybe talk to your pastor. He's got good ideas too. So just want to, a lot of this is giving you a foundation, some tools, and you can go from there. Devices should only be used in public spaces, especially at home. I don't want, my son and some girl walking off in some dark corner someplace. I want them to stay in public he's not dating anybody, but I want them to have accountability. You and your phone aren't wandering off into some dark corner. Stay where we can see you. We have access. The computers, everything's in public spaces. That's why they don't go to the rooms. They don't do that. We keep it public, and especially at home. And for the longest time, I would not go to bed and leave them with the TV on or their phone. I wouldn't do that. Now, just recently, I started doing that because I'm going to bed earlier because I'm getting more aged. No, it's good. But I don't want to stay up till midnight while they're on a Friday when they're kind of finally having some freedom from school. So I give them that time. But now, again, they've earned some privilege to where they can do some of these things. And again, we've gone through the bumps and bruises. And I want to be careful not, okay, you've proven yourself, I'm never going to look again. That's when they're going to mess up. There are too many good kids that we know that messed up at that 18, 19, 20-year-old age because everybody thought they're good. And they let their guard down and they messed up. And they're still battling through what they allowed themselves to get involved in, right? Because nobody was checking. So accountability is a good thing. I am 45 years old and my wife still checks. We have something called Covenant Eyes. It sends her an email every month where your husband was. If there's any websites that have questionable content, like I do graphic design, so I go to stock photography sites, and sometimes things in the feed are not things that I want to keep looking at. So if that passes through the screen, she might get a notification. Hey, Joe, what was this? Oh, I was doing this, and I was doing this, and I was doing this. I have an answer for her. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but she knows, and I know she knows. It's accountability even as an adult, okay? So I'm modeling that to my almost 18-year-old son, my 19-year-old son. So I want to model that. Don't let your kid know your password. My wife is so bad at not letting the kids, I think, all know her password. Sorry, babe, calling you out. It's so bad, she takes my phone and I'm like, honey, come on. Like, I have, and then my youngest, where's Hannah? Hannah is slick. So we might be driving down the road, right? And it's at night, and she grabs my phone, and she's sitting here, and my daughter's sitting there, and the phone's reflecting off the window. And she's like, all right, today's the day, you know? And so, I know she knows. I'm like, honey, you got it. We're doing all this stuff. But don't let your kids know your password. If the gate's unlocked, the gate's unlocked, right? Then there's not really any protection there. So you just got to be careful with that. But be ready for nagging and guilt trips by your kids, extended family, friends, and others for being too strict. That's coming if it's not already happening, right? And so as mom, as dad, preferably together, decide what's right for your family. Decide what's right for your family and stick to that. Again, that can massage and change as you need to, but generally keep that in mind. Model good device behavior. We hit that. Be aware that as technology changes, protections change too. What was good, 4 or 5 years ago when I first wrote this doesn't always work the same today. So you just have to be aware that things change. And then graduate privileges slowly. Going back is tough. So once you've given them all this freedom, dialing it back, that's a harder thing to do. Kids that again have too much, again, it's just a tough thing. So try to start small and graduate over time. For us, typically, it's year over year, right? So during school, they have a lot less screen time. In the summertime, they've got a lot more free time. And so we have the jobs for them. Sometimes they get a job, but then we have stuff around the house, and they have a certain time. So we try to make sure that they're not just binging all summer long. But then, so there's seasonal things, but then we okay, last year we did this, and you're how old, and you're how old. So to keep all track of that. And they're funny because they'll call each other out, no, you had this, you had that. And they're policing because they're looking at if Ben gets something, and then Nate's Ben got it when he was this age, so he's I got it at that age, and Hannah's sitting there taking notes. She's 10, I get a phone when I'm 13, I'm gonna have an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and she's going through all this stuff, and so it's hilarious. They keep track, they will keep accountable, and they'll always try to nudge that in their favor, right? They always want to get it earlier. And so anyway, lastly, I mentioned already, there's no digital replacement for a godly parent who is informed and engaged. You got to be involved. You got to be involved. And so whether you are, mom, dad, you might be the aunt or uncle or grandma, but, be looking out. Because here's the thing. I want them to be cool or accepted or be the kid that everybody, I don't want them to be the one that's left out. I get that sentiment, but I want kids that love their parents, that can engage and talk, that are with the family. To me, it's sad when you go to a restaurant and mom's, talking to her friend or whatever, and then the dads are all on their phones and the kids are on devices. Like, that's not family time. And just be careful that you make sure that you stay in, keep that human relationship going. The devices, there's a time and place, but you don't want that to dominate. And so it just can stay engaged, stay involved, and really parenting in the digital age is still just parenting. If you take away the phone, how would you parent your kids? You put the phone back in, you control that like you would anybody else or anything else. Just like you don't want them to be around bad friends, bad influences. Okay, what's influencing my child through this phone or through that app or through that website? And you just parent from there. You have the power, you have the ability, you have what you need to parent through the day and age in which we live. And though there are some challenges for sure, it's possible to be successful. And again, your kids are going to mess up. You're going to mess up through all of this. But you can have victory, and you can have a good godly home and kids that turn out and still love you, down the road. So that's all I have for just from the notes there. We can pray, and I don't know if it needs to get going, but we can do the Q&A if there's any particular things that we have. So how do you want to kind of maybe manage or navigate that?
Just do the Q&A, and then when we're done with that, we'll pray.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions related to, again, we covered a lot, but any questions, maybe something you've seen in somebody else or some other place? Who will be the first one to kind of jump in?